achieve at our house with our kids. They're all intricately involved with these children. They love these children. They each have special things to give these children. And I wouldn't want to take that from them because it's going to be part of their world, of their life history, and the way that they move on. So I think that, if anything, it enriches their lives much more than it would ever devastate their lives. And the last concern is loving a child so much and realizing that you don't have what it takes to do it. You know, this kid's going to come to you. Very often, they come and they've not had a nurturing environment, so they don't know how to sit at the table. They don't know when you get out of the car what you do. You know, a lot of them don't have cars. They may have a lot of experience riding around in one, getting out and going into a store. They don't know how to act. And so they're going to have needs that you feel like you can't meet. But the reality is that you can. You do have the time. You do have the patience. We have a little kind of thought at our house. It takes 3 months, maybe 4, for a child to go from their environment that was probably, to be honest, they're coming to care, it was less than stellar. They don't come from, if they had great homes, they wouldn't be with us. So to teach them social skills and grooming skills, some of these children don't bathe regularly, it's not a part of what they're used to. But as you get to know them and they get to know you, a bonding happens. And it doesn't happen after you give them a bath, and give them some cute clothes, and dress them up and take them to church for the first time. It happens over time, over you meeting their need day after day after day after day, and them trusting you to meet that need day after day after day. Little needs, big needs, all of those needs. As you do it, you get a natural bond with them, and you find that you do have. Now, there might be a situation, and it is true, that there are some children that are hard, and they don't fit in your home, and it's not a failure if that happens either. We had a brother sister that came, and as much as we wanted to keep them, we just couldn't. And it happened that they went to placement and maybe another, but when they finally landed at that right placement, they stayed there a long time. And they grew, and they made so much progress, and that man had what these children needed. So sometimes it's just a process of finding what they need, but I promise you have it to give these children. You have the time and you have the patience, and you can do a wonderful job if you don't let your fear of getting too attached affect you. Stephen's going to come share his side.
Thank you, Melissa. So I want to approach this from a little bit different perspective. Talk about how our family has developed coping mechanisms, if you will, for the separation process. Separation isn't unique to foster parenting. If you'll think about it, if you'll step back a little bit, life is full of separation. We separate from our high school friends when we graduate and move on to college. If you have biological children, they will separate from you eventually, we hope, and start families of their own. We separate from employers, sometimes multiple times in our life. We separate from our parents when they pass on. And so a lot of the thoughts that we'll share today about working through that separation process are things that we deal with other types of separation in our life. But the first thing that I really want to talk about is embracing your mission. Whether you're a foster or adoptive parent today, or whether you're thinking about it, there will be a point along that journey when you come face to face with your mission. That's after the feel-good fuzzies are gone. It's usually at 2 a.m. in the morning when that child's throwing up for the 3rd time in a row. But you begin to realize that what compels you, what drew you into fostering or adopting is much deeper than on the surface. It was a couple of years into our journey that Melissa came across this saying here. We felt like it really embodied the spirit of what we believed for our own biological children, as well as for the children that we were fostering. And so this has become dear to us, and it has become kind of the foundation for our mission and catering to the foster children and loving them. And it gives us a sense of stability during those times when emotionally we're questioning whether this was the right thing to do. Next slide, please. Developing a support group. From Alcoholics Anonymous to divorce recovery, support groups have been repeatedly proven to be one of the key things that help us through tough times in our life. As human beings, we are made to need other people. No man is an island, it's a cliche, but the truth collaborative environment, that support group can help us prepare for, make it through, and deal with the after effects of the separation. And I don't need to point out what all of these support groups are. Hopefully your family, your immediate family, your spouse, your partner, the kids in your house are part of that support group. Our mother-in-law is here today, and she watches the kids for us on many times when we need to get away and have a date night. But again, the extended community, your church and civic organizations can help. We've mentioned a number of our partners, some of whom are here today, Charter Bank, a lot of the physicians and practices in Carrollton, like West Georgia Internal Medicine, Kiwanis, churches like First Methodist, Carrollton Presbyterian Christ Fellowship, have continually reached out to the foster parents in this area to provide support, breaks, relief, encouragement, and supplies that aren't provided through the normal foster care program. So find out who these groups are, build deep connections, lean on people, and don't try to do it all yourself. Next slide, please. Stay connected. We've heard several people talk about building these relationships with biological parents that allow you to keep in touch with these kids. It doesn't happen often. In fact, it doesn't happen a lot. And there's good reason sometimes to keep a little distance. But when you can build those relationships, you're not only having an impact on the children, right? You're having an opportunity to begin to influence the parent and help them develop new, normal, healthy habits. But that relationship also enables you to stay connected. And I don't need to delineate all the different ways that you can do that, but every one of these have been ways that our family has been able to stay in contact with children after they've left and kind of encourage and reassure us that we did make a difference, that they are okay, that they're growing up and becoming healthy. Next slide. Lean on your faith. If you were raised in a religious environment, or if you embraced a faith in your adulthood, you'll find that that faith gives you a depth and a foundation that goes beyond a world right now that's full of hatred and violence, scary viruses and beheadings. For us, Melissa and I were raised in the tradition of Protestant Christianity, and our belief that there's a God that's very personal and has a unique plan for each individual gives us a hope, a purpose, and a plan for what we do that kind of transcends who we are as individuals. And the plan piece of that is particularly important because there are times when we feel like the children haven't been with us long enough, or that despite everything we've done would not make a difference, that they still have the terrible bad habits that they came to us with. But our belief that there is a creator that has a unique plan for that child gives us the reassurance and the freedom that he knows what he's doing, even if we don't think we do, and that for whatever period of time those children have been with us is the right period of time to make whatever impact there needs to be on their life for us. Next slide. Remember and reflect. If you've got children, you're doing this already. Scrapbooks, pictures on the wall, stories that you tell over the dinner table. And we do this with our foster children as well. If you remember the mission that I shared with you on the first slide, we've actually put that on a wall in our living room. And for all the children that stay with us beyond a certain period of time, we place their picture around that. And it becomes kind of a memory for us of those shared experiences and those neat times together. We tell stories over the dinner table even after they're gone, the good times, the funny times, the bad times. But those kids continue to live on throughout our home, throughout our memories at our house, through remembering and reflecting. And the last slide, please. And then celebrate. This isn't celebrating because it's particularly challenging. Kid is gone now, even though there may be those moments. But it's really celebrating because you've touched a life. And not only have you made a difference for the children, but as we heard earlier, a lot of times the biggest impact is for you and for your family. Melissa talked about how it's affected our kids, how it affects us personally. It begins to build new bridges across cultures, across beliefs, across different socioeconomic statuses. We've had a lot of our stereotypes broken down through those opportunities to work with the children. We wade into new realities. The most important thing is we get to plant a seed. And maybe a small seed that a school teacher or a friend seed creates a blessing for our family that we may not see in this lifetime, but that we can feel confident will go on after the child has left us. That's all that we have to share today. I think Justin will talk a little bit more about the special experience that we've had with a particular child, but we appreciate getting the opportunity to tell you our story today. Thank you.
I'm going to give Sam a second to pull up my presentation. I'm going to do my best to be brief. If I can get Bill and Laura, if you got your questions, you can be getting those together and giving them to Jill. She's at the back, so we can get those and make sure when we get our panel set up. Go ahead. Yeah, if you just go ahead and hand them to Jill. She's back there in the back, and we'll get those. If you've got questions, please give them to Bill now. When we give our panelists an opportunity to look at those, if you'll make sure you give those to Bill and Laura. The reason I'm up here in the program, it says One Church, One Child, and it was so funny when I put the title on this presentation, this part of the presentation, I started doing some research and did not realize that there's a national organization called One Church, One Child. And this national organization was established, started in Chicago, and when they started their, I'm going to give you their mission statement, vision statement, and then tell you why I titled this part of the presentation this, but the National One Church, One Child vision and mission is they remain, their mission and purpose remains the same of ensuring permanency for African American children. And the reason they started targeting the African American population in Chicago is there was a great disparity between the children of other ethnicities that were being adopted, and the African American children were being left behind. So that's where the initiative started. So if you go back this afternoon and Google One Church, One Child, what I'm talking about and what they're talking about are two totally different things. What I'm talking about is, I shared with you at the beginning of the morning, I sat in a leadership conference 5 years ago and heard that if one family in every 3 churches in America would adopt, that there would be no more orphans in the United States. And then I got the statistics that Ms. Purdue's already shared with you, that in Carroll County there are 123 children in custody, and there are only 11 foster homes. And now, in those 11 homes, there are only 2 beds that are available for children to stay in. I got to talking with the Carrollton Baptist Association Director of Missions, Brother Dan Dockery, and I said, Dan, how many churches are there in Carroll County? He said, Justin, there's 150. So what Ms. Purdue said about the fact that there's a church on every corner is a reality here in Carroll County. But most of you guys know a little bit enough about math to know that there are 150 churches and there are 123 children. That the faith community can come alongside those children for whatever time that they're in care and be a support system and a support mechanism for those children that are in care. That's my passion, because I'm trying to blend 2 things. I'm a pastor who served Carroll County at my church, Tias, for the last 15 years, but I'm also a foster parent. And how we blend those 2 things together has been my challenge and my passion and my drive. And I apologize to my congregation from time to time and say, look, if I talk too much about foster care or adoption in the sermons, just let me know. But it just makes sense to me that we've got so many churches and we've got so many kids that we can pair those up. So I just want to give you a few ways that if you're a member of a church, that you can touch base with your pastor, your leadership, and say, hey, is there a way we can come alongside some of these children? So that's what I want to do, and then I'll finish the story that Steve and Melissa finished up. This is what you can do. The first one, I put it at the top because to me, this is the ultimate investment when you as a family say, we're going to adopt. So again, if we had one church, one family in every 3 churches in America adopt, then we would eliminate orphans in America. The next one we've spent a great deal of time talking about today, because I think it's one of the important things that we can do is, as church folk and members of the faith community, is invest in the foster care system. Now, you've already heard this this morning. Foster care doesn't necessarily mean that you as a family say, okay, we're going to start having 27 children in our home. That may be where it ends up. Because I know of one of our foster families right now that has that's a varying degree of how many are 11. Beans, how many are in your home right now total? 9. So 6, there's 3 in foster care. That's 9 kids plus 2 adults. That's a lot of people. That may not be what your scenario is, but that may be where you need to get involved. The term that I like that I've run across is the idea of a godparent. That in our churches, we got plenty of people that want to help kids out. I hear this all the time. Justin, how can I help? How can I help? Well, this is one of the greatest ways that you can help is when a kid comes into care, you say, you know what, I want to be kind of like a godparent for them. I want to be somebody through this process that can just be there for them, that reminds them that gets another birthday card at birthday time, or gets another Christmas card at Christmas time, or that can just come alongside them and help them, as I said, navigate the challenging waters that are the foster care system. Because I can't imagine being displaced. I grew up in a normal home, whatever normal is. My parents were divorced when I was 12, so whatever normal is, I can't imagine the situation we have. We have 3 little sisters that are in our home that are 4, 3, and a year old. I can't imagine being taken away from mom and dad for whatever reason. And as Ms. Perdue has said earlier, they want to be back with mom and dad. They want to be with their siblings. And they don't understand why sometimes the strange people keep taking them away. So if they got another consistent part of the process, like we talked about with the CASA volunteers, somebody that's with them through the process, we can do that. Another thing that we need, and it is blatantly obvious in Carroll County that we need this, and some of the other communities that we talked about, we need advocacy. We need men and women in our community to stand up for foster children that are here in our county. If you look at the numbers, and you've heard the numbers that we've shared, we've got counties that have more foster parents than they have children. And you know what that means for Carroll County? That means our kids have to go to other counties, and they get uprooted from their schools, and they get uprooted from their families, and they have to go to other places. And I think that is why the biggest reason I wanted us to come together as a community today and say we need more advocates in our county for these children. The reason that the sisters are even in our home is they were about to have to go to Lithia Springs. And for one of the little girls, it was going to be like her 4th placement. We're like, no, let's stop the madness. You know, we just completed the adoption process, and we called DFACS and said, can we keep them here? Is there any way we can figure out how to keep them here? And we went through the process, and everything was good, and they're able to stay here and still able to see their mom and still able to see their brothers every week. But we need people that will come alongside and to advocate. This is always good. If you know people that got money, we can always use money. Right? You can give money to DFACS, you can give money to Foster Parent Association. We need money all the time. Why? Because some of that money from the Foster Parent Association blesses us. For those of you who know, the Carroll County Foster Parent Association gives us a day out every year. And we get choices. We go to a Braves game, we go to the aquarium. Just to be honest with you, I'm not taking 8 people to the Braves game. The aquarium at least isn't closed. So if one of them breaks and runs, the worst thing you got is diving into the pool. So we're okay with that. But they do that, so we need contributions. And thank you. There are a lot of you in here that support these different organizations, but that is one thing we do. And then I know that any of the organizations that you have talked to this morning, any of the support groups that are around, can always use volunteers. So if you say, well, I can't adopt a kid, and I don't know that I'm ready to foster a child, then just help us. I'm blessed to have my church family supporting me, and one of my members already came up to me this morning, and she said, I already figured it out. She said, it would be so easy for us as a congregation to have a big Christmas party for all the kids that are in Carroll County. Like that. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the kind of things that we can do, because again, I'm on the other side of it looking at these kids, and as we left this morning, we've got all kinds of support staff. We have a lady in our church that has taken the time to get fingerprinted about 27 times. And she's the person that we call when we need to do something like we do today. And I'm very blessed that my father this morning has taken the time to sit with those little girls. And this morning, one of the reasons I don't have my yellow shirt on is because our little baby was asleep, and I was like, I can't go back in the room. She can get my shirt. She's asleep. We had to leave that to even come here. There's so many places that you can get involved, and that's where, again, if we can get that word out to the faith community, it's just a natural connection point, because there's so many of us that have such a passion for people that to me is the natural place that we can get people involved through our church. And so encourage you to do that. And if you are a member of a church, encourage your leadership to at least contact DFACS, see how we can get plugged in. My hope is we walk away from today and there's enough of a desire to see this happen, that maybe we make something really practical and specific, and it not just be pie in the sky or some kind of dream that I have or vision that I have, but it's something that can become a reality in our community. So just wanted to share that, and again, thank you guys so much for coming.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume is not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
And now I want to introduce our panel. You've already met the Beams, and this is Purdue. We're thankful that they're going to sit and answer a couple of questions that you have posed this morning. But I also have got a couple other folks. Shakira Hendricks is a DFACS case manager. And anything you'd like to say in introduction of yourself, since we know a little bit about these other two?
I used to be a former counselor with Carroll County for a little over a year, and then I came as family preservation worker for the Carroll County DFACS. It is imperative that we get more foster families here, especially for workers, because we're having to drive so far out to get our kids and our families together, and it also helps with reunification of the families quicker. If the families and kids are in the same place, in the same county, we're able to get together for more visits. The families want to work the family plans faster versus going out 3 or 4 hours one way and then having to come back. And it also helps with the community support. A lot of our kids are in school. They don't want to leave school and lose their friends, the teachers, what they've already been accustomed to, and loss of information, which is very pertinent with keeping our kids. The kids already feel a sense of loss when they're removed from their family and then going into a place that's familiar to them. Like the home is different, but the community is the same. They know their friends are the same. And they're able to lose something but gain that same respect, more time with mom and dad. And it gives mom and dad a sense to say, I don't have a car and going to Savannah is different than I don't have a car and having to go to Carrollton or Billerica versus, all the way across the state of Georgia. And with CASA workers and DFACS workers, it is our job to maintain the family support. And so it puts stress on us when we have to go out so far. And so if people would become foster families and foster parents, it helps our caseload out. And it also helps the families to know that we're supporting them in their community and not taking them out of what they're already used to. So it's not an easy job. My mom was a foster parent. Knowing other foster parents, it's hard, it's not easy, it's time consuming, but the joys are more than the fosters you may have. And so I would implore you to think about it, to become a foster family, a parent. It will really help in your community, and it will help foster the lives of other people that you're going to meet throughout your life as a foster parent.
And this is a good friend of mine in the community and just an all-around good guy. We've got Brent on our panel, Vohan, as a child who's been adopted. So I know maybe some of you have some questions about, okay, now what, because now Brent and I are going to have a lot of conversations, because there's the end of the story. I don't know if you can figure out which one's Caleb. He looks kind of more like his mom than he does his dad. One of the questions that we looked at earlier, when his hair grows out, he's got his mom's hair, but it's guaranteed he's got his daddy's feet. We'll just leave it at that, but that was that day. So, Brent, just kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll answer questions.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me here today, and you with the yellow shirts, I admire you, and I really appreciate the efforts that it takes to raise children that maybe look differently, have come from different backgrounds. I wouldn't be here without foster care, and I wouldn't be here without adoption. I want to thank Justin for going to my Facebook profile and finding a picture where I was a little thinner. I'm sorry for those that were expecting a child up here. You got a 38-year-old man. But I do have braces, so you have to imagine me a little bit younger. But my mother and father are Frank and Ellen Beaumont. Mother Ellen died from cancer back in 1990. But I've had a interesting story to tell. It's a long one, probably longer than you can care to hear, but I've been very blessed in these 38 years of life. I spent 6 weeks in foster care when I was born, and was fortunate enough to be raised by Frank and Ellen Beaumont for 13 years before my mother went on home to be with the Lord. And my dad, he's an amazing man. I've been crying most of this morning, listening to the testimonies of the men and women in this community that are so brave and that have hearts way bigger than this room. Thankful is the only adjective that comes to mind. You're so needed. It's I just want to thank you. And you're right, y'all don't hear it enough. But for those of you that are thinking and considering of being foster parents or adopting, I can't encourage you enough to give these children a chance at life. But anyway, I'm also a jokester, and I graduated from college, which was one of the things.